DJ and PK, we're joined now by Chris Lowe, senior college football insider for On3.com. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Good to be with you.
Well, we have so many college football questions for you, but there's one story. It's story number 1, story number 2, story number 3, story number 4, story number 5. Brendan Sorsby cleared by the courts to play at Texas Tech. How far exactly did your jaw drop when you heard that news?
I'd say probably like everybody else, every coach, AD, anybody that follows college football, because there's sort of a cardinal sin in sports. You guys know what it is. You can't gamble, certainly not on your own team, even though he didn't play when he was gambling. And I don't think even with the weaponization of courts, local courts, and we've seen that in eligibility cases, I don't think anybody thought this was coming. Now the NCAA obviously is appealing it, but everybody I talked to does not expect that appeal to be any resolution in that appeal until after the football season, which puts it all back on Texas Tech and or the Big 12. I know some people said, well, the college football playoff, is not controlled by the NCAA, so is there a bylaw that says they could preclude Tech from playing the playoff if they get in there? I don't know. There's been a lot of bluster, ADs and coaches saying they weren't going to play them. I don't think that's going to happen because it's going to cost them too much money this year. Down the road, maybe. But it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. Does Texas Tech sort of cave? Because they owe the kid $5 million. Do they cave? Do they work out an agreement with him? No, we're not going to do this. But, yeah, it's with all the chaos that has gone on around college sports, I don't think anybody saw it getting to this level.
Even if it's only for show and doesn't have any teeth and is challenged and is ruled unsuccessful, whatever it might be, you think it's incumbent upon the Big 12 to just say, no, we're not going to allow this, we're suspending them?
Yes. I go a step further. And I talked about this with several colleagues of mine that are ADs at other parts of the country. I think we're to a point now where university leadership has to step up, period. I'm talking about chancellors and presidents who I think have been sort of gotten off the hook a little bit in some of these matters. Because just because you're clear in a court to be eligible to play, whether you're gambling, whether you pleaded down a DUI or an assault charge, whether you signed a pro contract and were drafted and you come back and play because the court says you can play. Well, there's nothing that says that the president at said university, whether it's Texas Tech or Alabama or Georgia or Tennessee or Ole Miss or any schools, that says, hey, we got to let him play. So there, to me, is a responsibility there. Now, I understand people say, you're naive with all the money that's being generated, the money you're paying these kids. But it is still supposed to be an institution of higher learning. And I do think a chancellor and president do have the power to step and say, no, this is not going to happen. We're going to help this kid. If he wants to stay in school and continue to get his education, his degree, we'll be there to support him. If he's got an issue like this kid clearly does with gambling, we're going to do everything we can to help him get that fixed. But he's not going to play football for us this year. Case closed.
Big 12 has the power to ban him from the postseason. They have the power to suspend him even if he gets challenged in court. Do you think that the other presidents and ADs, when they meet early next week, are going to pull all those levers? They've got multiple levers here to pull them all. Texas Tech wants to go to the playoff really, really badly. If you can ban them from postseason play, which apparently in their bylaws they can, why wouldn't they?
Well, I would think that's certainly going to be the push among all Texas Tech's peers in the Big 12. It should be. If I'm Kansas State or Iowa State, any of those schools in that league, Arizona, Utah, absolutely, that's what I'm pushing for. And I think I think the wheel is already turning, and we'll see where, the leadership of the Big 12 is with that. There's going to be a lot of pressure. Even if the university leadership at Texas Tech doesn't take those steps, then, yeah, I agree. I think it's incumbent upon the Big 12 to do that. And I'm not naive. I understand you got boosters, $1 million, $1 billion boosters at all these schools. In the case of Texas Tech, there's one in particular, who's doled out piles of cash and sometimes it gets to be a little bit of the tail wagging the dog, and you don't want to alienate those types of money people. And there's a little bit of a balancing act there. But yes, I still think there's going to be accountability across the board at the top of both the conference level and the university level.
Why do you think Texas Tech is pushing so hard? Because if they are, maybe they'll change their mind. But obviously they're supporting him and all that, and nothing has been said as far as them not allowing the kid to play yet. Maybe it'll come to that, because I think it's a bad look, and I hate to bring this up, but I will, because it shouldn't matter whether you're the best player or the worst player. The gambling is still the issue. But the fact is, this kid is not all world, so I don't understand why they're willing to die on this hill if that is, in fact, what they end up doing.
Yeah, and to your point, what if this was a second-team offensive guard?
Yeah.
You think they'd be fighting this hard after if everything else was the same? I think you got to support your players. I mean, it's just like when somebody gets in trouble off the field. You still want to sort of help those kids get a degree. And in Sorsby's case, he's got, and I don't make light of the fact the kid's clearly got a problem. And I know he's been seeking help as a school, as a university you sign with. You want to continue to help him do that. But yes, you don't have to let him play football. And I don't know. I don't know if they feel like, they're going to dig their heels in and hold on to this. As I said earlier, there's money involved now, $5 million worth. He's into a contract with. I do think in most of these contracts, I haven't seen them all. There are ethics clauses that if you break those ethics clauses, then you forfeit all or some of the money. I think stuff like that, and maybe those conversations are being held right now between his people, his reps, and Texas Tech. I go back to what I said at the outset of our conversation. That to me, the most fascinating thing is if this truly does end up being just in Texas Tech's court, and the Big 12 doesn't do anything, the college football playoff says, we don't have any bylaws that say we can't keep them from getting in. What does Texas Tech do amid all this pressure and outrage across college sports? Which, let's be fair, and it's not necessarily gambling, although that's a whole other conversation. What was it? I think someone said there's 14,000 kids playing, I don't know if it's FBS football or Power 4 football. And this is not a whataboutism, but I think the scariest thing that scares the hell out of ADs and coaches is how many other kids are gambling regularly on football. But I think let's be clear about other schools that have had issues where kids have got in trouble and they pleaded cases down. Georgia's had a ton of kids get arrested, racing, speeding. Tragically, they had one kid die in an alcohol-related incident. You got kids that are signing pro contracts and going to court, coming back and play. So everybody who's wagging the finger now, and gambling to me, though, is at the top of the list because it's a cardinal sin. People need to make sure their own closets are clean before they get too sanctimonious.
Yeah.
Well, that's number one. That's true. I think number two is no matter how clean your closet is today, who knows what tomorrow is going to bring. So,
right, exactly.
I mean, the ads are up in the stadiums. The ads are up on TV. Everything's available on your phone. Most states, not all, but most states have legalized this. And even if they haven't, people figure they can get away with it anyway. So, and then just the sheer number of college athletes, this has to be going on. The thing is, college sports can survive this if there are consequences and the people who are seen as the grown-ups in the room take action. Because there's at least 75 years of point shaving stuff out there. City College of New York, 75 years ago now. And there's been stuff pretty much every decade. So I don't see why that's going to change. But the difference is the grown-ups in the room, in this case, a local court said, 2-game suspension. I mean, hasn't it always been at least a year? Apparently they tripped up here because the NCAA, there was some coach in Indiana who only got 30% of the games or something. I didn't know about that case. But most of the high-profile ones, including recently NFL, people get sit down for a year, and in his case, that's his last year of college eligibility.
Yeah, and look at the Iowa kids just recently.
Yeah.
who
Calvin
are
Ridley with the Falcons in the NFL.
So yes, it's and I know I'm echoing what I said earlier. So yeah, who does stand up and say no? This is not. We're not going to do this. Like conference, school, NCAA. I think everyone's sort of waiting to see, because if the right thing is done here, and again, not just kicking this kid to the curb, as a person or as a student, but he's not allowed to play, then yeah, everybody else says, okay, there are real consequences. See what happened to Sorsby. If you gamble, you're not going to be able to play. You're going to be done for at least a whole year, because otherwise, and I think a coach said this anonymously, how do you ever know going forward what's on the up and up when games are played? Are kids, betting the under? Are they betting the over? Are they betting not to cover? I hate to even throw that out there, but those questions are going to be asked, right? I mean, everyone's going to wonder that. The health of the game, it's never going to be the same if he's allowed to play football this year for Texas Tech. Bottom line.
Yeah, especially in a sport like football at the college level. In a pro level, it seems like it's more manageable because there's just fewer guys. In the college game, you have double the amount of spaces on your roster, and to try to manage all these kids is a chore unto itself. And plus, too, now with these kids coming into enormous amounts of money, like we're talking about Love, the running back from Notre Dame, he was saying about the contract that he's going to sign with the Arizona Cardinals. He's going to put it away. He says, I've been benefiting from NIL. Quote, I'm well off. That's a phrase he used himself. And so you wonder if these kids are already getting besieged probably by a bunch of hanger-oners and people and unscrupulous agents or whomever it might be, because we hear it at the pro level. And now if gambling, then if there isn't a consequence or a severe consequence, you're just opening up temptation for young people that are already facing so much temptation as it is, compounded with the amount of money that they're making. It's just awful.
Yeah, and I'm glad you guys brought it up about the gambling advertising and, the apps, the betting sites. We can't watch a ball game anymore without seeing those ads, in stadiums everywhere. So there is a little bit of a hypocritical element here to it. And because, those advertisements and those companies who advertise are paying big money. I mean, there's a lot of cash being generated. But no, I mean, listen, when I was 19 and 20, I made a lot of dumb decisions. Now, I didn't have $4 or $5 million in my discretion, and God knows what kind of stupid decisions I would have made if I had that kind of cash. And you're right, you have people in your ear, the wrong people sometimes. You pray these guys are listening to the right people. And I think a lot of times if a kid who's 19, you're going back to some of the stuff in Georgia, and you get a high horsepower car, you never really had a car like that, and you're just sort of driving out of control, gambling. There's a lot that's different now, and that's why it's hard with the kind of money that's being paid out. I mean, if you think about it, if you're a top-tier quarterback, and this is not in any way, shape, or form me saying kids shouldn't be paid, because we're long since past that. These kids, they're the reason we go watch games. We don't watch the players to walk up and down, the coaches to walk up and down the sidelines. We go to watch the players play. And I still love the sport on Saturdays. But a top-tier quarterback in college football is going to command $3 million plus, maybe $4 million, maybe $5 million. Sam Levitt, who transferred from Arizona State to LSU, I think is getting $6.5 million. So the kinds of cash that we're seeing doled out. Jeremiah Smith told me, the receiver from Ohio State, who I think is the best player in college football, said if he wanted to go on the open market this past year, I know Miami was certainly interested, which is where he's from, he could have gotten $10 million, he said. And so, and you hear the clutter or not the chat about maybe the collective bargaining model is the way to go. And I'm not necessarily saying that won't work, but if I'm an athlete right now, are you going to be on board with that? If you're making 5, 6, could potentially make $10 million? I don't know. I don't know if I would be on board with that.
Right. I do know. I would not be. I get to move every
Exactly.
year. I get to move every year, and
Yep.
it's an open market and bidding. Why would I limit that? There was a time, maybe 10 years ago, when Northwestern players wanted to do it. There was still some upside they were chasing, so there's something they could get. But now they're getting everything, so why would they agree to that? It doesn't make any sense to me at all that they would sign up for that.
Yeah. Which is why I balk at the idea that that's going to fix everything. I'm not saying it's not something that should be explored in some way, shape, or form, but I don't think it's the end-all answer. And I don't know what the end-all answer is. And that it's where we are. I mean, this thing was kicked down the road. The can was kicked down the road forever. And now it really is total chaos, anarchy. As I think one president called it anarchy. And it's, Congress is involved. You got the Safe Sports, College Sports Act, but to me, anything that stunts a player's ability to move or his ability to make more money or cap what his income is going to be legally challenged. That's going to be challenged in court, and it's going to continue to happen. So, outside of a total antitrust exemption, I don't know if that's ever going to happen that the NCAA gets. I think we're seeing we have been seeing the beginning, the end to the NCAA and what type of organization or what it looks like. Even Dabo Sweeney, who back in 2014 famously said, well, they're going to pay athletes, I'll go do something else. Well, even he's saying now, well, maybe there needs to be a players association maybe there needs to be a super league or a league that's 50 or 60 teams that have its own governance, its own commissioner, its own playoff. I do think we're going to be moving to some semblance of a model like that in college football. I don't know what the timetable is, but boy, when you have things like this happen, I don't think there's anything that's out of the realm of possibility. I really don't.
And Chris, I'm an Arizona State grad. You had to bring up Levitt, didn't you?
Yeah, and that's one of those things where you had the Liz Frank injury last year. He's had 2 surgeries, and he's making all that money. And I know Lane said he's running now, but we'll see where he is health-wise when the season starts. So even a kid like that who's had some issues injury-wise, Miami was willing to pay him, Tennessee was willing to pay him,
sure.
LSU finally got him, and he's making a ton of cash. So yeah, the movement. I think the thing if you look at that Save College Sports bill, the thing to me, the 2 things that make the most sense, and I don't know if they'll ever hold up, are the 5 to play 5. Because guys, I don't know about you, but I really don't want to watch 25 and 26-year-olds play college sports. I just don't, especially a kid who's played a couple of years of pro ball in Europe or whatever. The other thing is you said a minute ago, playing at 3 or 4 different schools. All right, I can make another $800,000. Some will go here the next year, and then there the next year, because the emotional attachment. And here's what I think. I know the viewership is still high, and people are watching on Saturdays. But what's it going to be like 2, 3, 4 years now if this continues? Because the emotional attachment to college sports, having a team that you watch grow together for 2 or 3 years, like almost the soul of college sports, we're starting to lose that.
Yep.
Yeah, we definitely see it here. The 2 of us have been here long enough. We remember that exact scenario at the University of Utah. And obviously they won big, and they went to an NCAA title game in basketball in 1998. And that was the whole story of the 90s, watching those teams grow together and those guys. And that could never be replicated now. And the arena was packed, and people loved it. And they're not winning now, and obviously that's the biggest piece of the equation. But it's just a totally different vibe. And they got a player from that era back trying to rejuvenate that because it was so special to Alex Jensen, but even he's acknowledged, man, the rules are just so different now. It's just And
I tell my kids who are in the 20s, they look at me like I got 4 heads, and I know it's never going to go back to those days. But Michael Jordan played 3 years of college basketball, in North Carolina. Ralph Sampson, who was the college basketball player of the year twice, played 4 years.
Yeah, Tim Duncan's not walking through that door.
Yeah, those days are over of teams like that, kids playing together and growing together. And I think that's what, as a guy going on 61, I still love the games. I get up on Saturday mornings and I can't wait. And the product is great. I'm not one of those get off my lawn guys. But the part I miss the most is seeing teams grow and seeing kids develop together and knowing, hey, this kid is a really promising freshman for us, and I can't wait to see what he does next year and how much he grows. And then the next year, and we're going to get in this receiver and see those guys grow together. It's junior college every year now, and I don't know. That just does not appeal to me as much.
Chris, we appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us.
You bet, guys. Anytime.
There's Chris Lowe. He's a National College Football insider, senior college football insider for On3.com.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Summer is all about freedom, fun, and growing up. And between the ages of 9 and 13, kids are starting to form their views about alcohol. With more independence, their still developing brains need more guidance and support than ever. That's why summer is the perfect time to stay connected and plan fun, safe family activities together. Research shows kids who spend quality time with their parents doing what they enjoy are less likely to drink underage. And when kids feel close to you, they're more likely to listen, especially when you set clear expectations. In fact, kids who drink before 15 are far more likely to struggle with alcohol later. This summer, create a no-bummer summer with fun, alcohol-free activities for your kids. Go to summer.parentsempowered.org to take a quick quiz and discover ideas tailored to your family. A little time together can make a big difference. For more information and to learn more about how to prevent underage drinking, visit parentsempowered.org.